Hello, self, Nick, Ohana, Soul Dr. Nick here. It's February 16th, 2025, and this is mirror work. And using the DJI app again, so it tracks my head. And just reminding myself what mirror work is. And what it is to me right now. And I was contemplating this morning, dancers have these giant mirrors, always watching themselves, and it makes so much sense now. And we could always look in the mirrors in the bathrooms. And for me, I've always just been glancing at them, not really caring, because I'm like, I don't care about my appearance. That's part of the patterning I grew up with. Versus actually taking a look and saying, I actually care how I impact others. Now that I say it out loud, I really do. I care about how I impact others, and my appearance is one of them. It's probably one of the earliest ones because what you see. And it obviously impacts because what I'm wearing and the bright colors I've been drawn to before is part of it as well. The bright color cars that I want. So I want to be seen in a way. So I have not taken care of my appearance in the same way that I think I would. And perhaps that will start changing. So mirror work is changing a lot of different things. So mirror work as well could just be looking in the mirror with a candle. I remember Yvonne taught me this, and I haven't really tried, just eye gazing and seeing what comes up, seeing what masks come up, what shadows come up, what spirits come up. Today for me right now, mirror work is me seeing me and being able to say what wants to come through. So I'm hearing myself, seeing myself in real time. And I'm doing this on the camera and making it public because it's part of my own work. Let's stop hiding self. Let's see what it's like actually being out there and not out there. There's a fear because, wow, someday, and I know someday is coming, when I have many more people who are following what I do, what will come out of all this? What will be clipped out? And part of it's just the trust. There's going to be such a volume of information that only someone who's really dedicated or wants to use AI in some way to clip it out is going to get something specific. And seeing that progression. Coming up March 1st, 2nd, I'm going to be doing the breakthrough experience with Dr. John Demartini and his daughter Elena Demartini online. And part of me looks forward to what's going to change about this mirror work between now and then. Is it going to be like, oh, I can see the slow progression and this crazy fast progression for a bit? And if that's the case, fantastic. And if it's not the case, fantastic. It's just noticing. And I'm hiring coaches right now. I'm hiring people to support me. And what will come out of that and all of that, I plan to let loose on the mirror work. And then for me, I'm practicing even my own stuff, like, oh, how am I streamlining the process for the processing, for the uploading, because these video files are getting quite big. And so how do I do that? So there's so many little things that are coming up and I'm learning from. So, my little man is sick right now. He's got a fever. He threw up yesterday. And really grateful because we're learning how to both hear him, because he's like, I want to come anyway. And then he was just feeling pretty miserable. We needed to have, some support just to be able to get out of the house, and realized, okay, if we need the support, maybe it's not the day to get out of the house. Maybe it's the day to heal. And how to listen to that intuition. How to be the parents in the room sometimes, right? There'll be some upset, and that's okay. And then it was great to talk about it with my beloved and say, oh, hey, what do we see we could have done differently? And I was like, oh, it would have been great if I had actually chosen to stay home. And she's like, it would have been great the moment we knew he was actually sick, that we minimized everything else and just went home. I was like, you're right, there's at least a couple of places to look at. And it was really good because we had really good chat on the way to the appointment, because we were talking about things, including this mirror work. And I realized this mirror work right now, a big part of it will be looking back at the past, because my backstory is a story that's actually happened, and it's important for people to know, and it's important for me to practice sharing in a succinct way. And I preface it with, and I'm going to keep prefacing it as much as I can with, I look back at the past now as if everything is perfect. And because it is perfect. And I want to thank especially my parents whenever they come up, because there will be what sounds like blame, and there probably still is some, but a bigger, much bigger part of it now is gratitude and appreciation, because without all the things that have happened, I wouldn't be who I am today. And without all the challenges that have happened, I wouldn't have learned what I needed to learn to be who I am today. And that's sometimes the really funny thing and the oxymoron. And I don't have memories of what we call the big T trauma, sexual abuse of myself, major injuries, that kind of stuff. And I say that not because I'm trying to separate it, but I also say it because I don't claim that my way is the right way. I can't imagine what life is like there. And putting an example, and I've said this many times, I can't imagine my parents' life. They lost a son at 2 months of age. And of all the losses in life, that feels like it could be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, because it's when you're an adult, when you think you've got things going, when you think you're supposed to be playing a role, and then you feel like you've completely failed and lost. And what's the point then? And I hope never to experience that in this lifetime. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to experience more loss even. And what I am willing to be with is what shows up in my life. And that's part of it, is knowing who do I want to appear as. One of the things I look at these days is like people like Elon Musk or Trump. I'm like, they're so visible, there's so much vitriol that I hear in so many places against them, that there's a part of me that does fear for their life and fear for the lives of their loved ones, and recognizes that they're willing to step into that because they want to make the shifts they want to make, whether I agree with the shifts or not. And some of them I agree with, and some of them I may not agree with. And I haven't looked that much in detail because it's not my main focus. But what I am clear on is that I don't envy that life right now. There was a time when I used to envy. I was like, oh my God, that much money, that much power, what do I do with it? And now I'm like, okay, if I suddenly jump to that, there's a big part of me that would be hiding, cowering in the corner, because I don't want that yet. And I'm noticing how I've been stepping up into a role that's much closer to that than I've ever imagined. And that's the funny thing. Every step has led me to here. Even this being so public as this, it took a lot of steps to get here. And soon I'll be recording things like podcasts and other things like that. And that will be another layer of being out there, because I know those will actually be seen differently too. So coming back to my own story, that's the piece. And I was listening to Alex Hormozi on Diary of a CEO yesterday, just the beginning, and he's sharing his backstory of how he got to there and owning it. Like, yeah, that he was actually smart, that he was actually a consultant, and he had this track that he should have been on to become, millionaire, multimillionaire, all this stuff. But it was a conventional track and he didn't want it, and he dropped out to become an entrepreneur. And it helped me realize, he's like, yeah, this either resonates with people or it doesn't. I'm not going to pretend to be someone else. And that's the same thing for me. Who do I resonate with? And who I think I'm going to resonate with and who I resonate with may be two different things. I am an Asian who has grown up in North America, who had Hong Kong parents who were successful in the academia world. My dad was a doctor. My mom's a teacher by training, and who has seen a lot of places, who grew up in small town Prince Edward Island. And I was able to have a lot of achievement and success, especially academically, whether it was science projects, whether it was in school, whether it was in piano, whether it was in gymnastics. And so thought I was doing quite well, and skipped a grade, and was quote unquote smart, and became a medical doctor, and then stressed through that, and then burnt out at the very last year of my residency before I become a practicing doctor with almost $200,000 in debt, and was suicidal, post-traumatic stress, was on antidepressants, was on venlafaxine at one point, Prozac, and then was on Pristiq, another newer generation. And I say that because I remember those medications. Like, I felt more human, but I remember I missed one day and I felt so bad, like everything had collapsed. I realized, oh my God. And that's when I realized I don't want to be on this forever. And I remember, oh my God, there was anorgasmia, like not being able to have orgasm. there are so many things that happened while on the medications. And there's a way that I could rationalize it now and say, well, I didn't kill myself at least. I don't think I was ever that close. I think I was feeling like I wanted to not exist, but I wasn't actively going to do something about it. That was always me. When I'm down, I don't want to do anything. When I'm down, I'm willing to sit in the pain. And later on, I'll talk about my first ayahuasca experience, and that was part of it as well. So coming back to that, going through the depression suicidality and leaving and becoming and doing nothing for a while, like for a couple of years, really being in the abyss, seeing so many doctors, seeing so many healthcare professionals, flying back and forth from PEI, flying to and driving to Vancouver, switching from Calgary to Vancouver because I realized I needed to get out of there. And there's still so much more to talk about in there. Like, this story has so many layers and facets. And then I had been on disability insurance because I really was disabled and so wanted to please others that when I had this quote unquote independent assessment from the disability insurance for the doctor, that I was like projecting myself as, I've got life figured out. I'm going to apply for this job at Apple as a genius and I'm going to get it and life is great. And looking back now, it was ridiculous. I didn't have the job. I wanted to apply, but it didn't mean I got it. I was still living in a basement apartment. I was still living above my means, even with that disability insurance. I think was on medications. There's so many things that were still red flags, but because of how I project myself and because the doctor really wasn't working for me, he was paid by someone else. Not to say that he wasn't being in integrity. It's just, he tried, I think, to give me some outs going, hey, are you really doing that well? And because I kept insisting, he's like, I got to write this report, which means the disability canceled the insurance. And they said I could appeal, but I had no understanding of what that all meant and appealing. And I was so gung-ho. And the other thing, looking back, I'm so grateful for that higher self-wisdom because I would have stayed in that much longer, that comfort zone, having that disability. Working at Apple's a genius, like a medical doctor behind the counter, working on computers, and I loved it. It was the time of freedom. It was the time that Steve Jobs just died, so it was still free. And that's the part that has been lost in all the efficiencies. The efficiencies have helped because it has minimized costs and maximized output that you can measure. What you can't measure is the feeling sense of the real champions. Like, people weren't just using an Apple device, which is all I'm doing now. They were really champions of Apple devices. And I say that because I was an evangelist. I was like, oh my God, you have to go Apple. Like, this is the way to go. Now I'm like, no, if you're not sucked into the system yet, I don't know if you should. I am paying a lot of money to be in the system, like hundreds of dollars a month. And especially if I amortize all the technology I have, definitely hundreds of dollars a month. And I'm grateful for it right now because it serves, and I'm grateful because it works for me. So let's not get that wrong. And so I went from that to realizing as it started getting more constrained, it started getting more controlled. I was getting a little burnt out, depressed, because like, oh my God, like all the people that I really loved that were adding the value and freedom and could see me. Like, I had a manager named Nicole, and she was so good at bringing out the best of me. Just a little challenge to win a little gift. And I was like, I will work. Like, I had 5 computers lined up at a time. Like, people would come back to see me because there was an added layer. And I forget that too, the added layer of the personality and the person. And I loved my coworkers, and I remember removing, splinters and stuff like that. Like, it was really good. And that's where I met my good friend Viv, who introduced me to my beloved. So, hey, lots of good things came out of all this. And then I had a gentleman of Lazy Finance. We talked about financial stuff too. And that was my first ride of the marijuana wave with stocks and the drop. Then we moved into pharmaceutical world. That's right, because I had a client, Susan, come in, and she's like, you need to be working with your MD. And I went from earning, I think, around $50,000, $60,000 a year to earning $100,000 a year. And it's funny because they got me. They're like, what price do you want? 100,000. Done. And I was like, no idea that I was on the lowest end of the pay scale. And the next year I got like a $10,000 raise. And I get it, right? Like, why not? And I get it. Like, I'm glad to have gotten that job. I'm glad every other job didn't work out. And working for Gilead, the biggest pharmaceutical company at the time, because they had the first cure for hepatitis C, the most expensive drug in the world. And so much funding to play. And it was really good to play. And then it was really good to play and then get shut down for even the things I wanted to do to make access more affordable. And then all the different stories that came out for me to burn out again. Like over and over the stories to burn out. And I didn't realize it because I was always so upset. Like, how could this boss have not seen who I am and then not have allowed me to expand? And getting to hear, and even in the spiritual world or even in the life coaching world, all the places that I got to, I had to leave because my role was to get to the place where I could be me. And I wasn't trying to puppet someone else's voice. That's been the funniest journey. Because I remember as I was working with different healing teams, and I was like, how did I get exiled? How did I get betrayed? How did I get ... again? And then recognizing my part that I play in it, because it's never the other person. And then now looking back and saying there's probably some part of their wisdom that guided me away. Like, teach you, push you away almost. And there was pain on both sides, and there still may be. Like, I can't speak for their experience. But then getting to this point now and leading a team too. And realizing I want to lead a team, and it's a totally different challenge. And then I want to lead from a place of strength, of the king, the warrior, the magician, the lover, of firmness and kindness, and of humility. I don't know it all. I don't want to know it all. I don't want to be the best at everything. And how do I really not abdicate the role, but pass it along in a way that really serves. And every time they ask for some support or some input, actually give it. Both be like, you've got this, and give whatever I can see, and say, don't take mine over yours. And that's the piece too, is helping the team to see you're not here to say that Nick's word supersedes mine. In fact, unless there's something where I say, my word supersedes yours, we may go through several iterations and afterwards be like, oh shoot, I should have been more clear. And that's my learning too. So just noticing the mirror right now and just being with it, just being with my back as I'm sitting up straight and hunching. And I was so stiff yesterday afterwards. So maybe it's time to shift positions and shift how I'm sitting. That's the reminder. Because right now I'm sitting above where the camera is. And that can work. But sometimes it's not so good for the back. And as I step and walk a little bit, and you may see some decorations in the background. Someone's already decored this common room for a gathering today. And at first I was going to use a different room, and I thought, no, actually, I still want to use it. It's beautiful, actually. It makes it look nicer. And I don't imagine they're going to be down here at 8 a.m. getting everything ready. They set up yesterday. I imagine they're coming here for lunch. And so they'll probably be here the next hour or two. And then I'll go. So getting to where I am now, and having had so many teachers, I've had to have people who believed in me more than me, who are like, I trust you, Nick. And that, I remember, was my friend Matt. He's like, I want you to run a ceremony. He's like, what? Okay. And then the breath, and just, after training for the breath, I'm glad that I have my background and just trusting myself to try stuff out. And I'm glad I had the team I was working with at the time, Intronaut, and got to play there. And then the pandemic happened, and I had to stick things online. And otherwise, I wouldn't be in front of the camera and as comfortable in front of the camera as I am now. Because I had to be. Not I had to be. I adapted to the situation. And so here I am now in front of the camera, recording self and the mirror work. And the biggest part is the over and over again falling and the failing. And the parts that I have done, like I have gone from hundreds of thousands of debt into where I am now, feeling like I'm living a semi-retired life, and there's so much more, right? It's not feeling guilty for where I'm at, and not feeling guilty for where I want to go, and then recognizing everything's perfect right now. One of the biggest things for me and the easiest thing to define is I went from being someone who was on 5 medications for asthma every day for my lungs and for coughing, for having a pulmonary function test of less than 70%, I think, for taking 2 courses of antibiotics a year for sinusitis and everything else, and having doctors who've been working with me, my dad working with me since I was 5 years old, to in 2018, stopping the medications and never taking them up again. I did, now for complete transparency and clarity, I think take 1 or 2 puffs once or twice in the last 2 years, partly to see what would happen, and partly because I was currently sick at the time and seeing how that would change things. And it was never needed. But I realized I no longer had to have my ego say, I am never taking any again, and that is what defines me. And I think that's part of it. Sometimes I feel like I'm defined by a certain trait, and it's important to actually step out of it. The most recent one was the enemas, and doing them daily. I've been doing them since 2023 daily. And it was actually a challenge to say I'm not going to do it one day. I haven't done it today. And because it almost defined me. It's like, I've got this thing I've got to streak for, right? And I am that kind of streaky person in this way. It was the same with the breath when I did the presence process and after I did the breathwork training. I did it for years straight. When I had the Newcom device, same thing. When I first got my light therapy Roxeva device, same thing. Like, I will get heavily into it. When I healed from the asthma, not drinking. I didn't drink for, I can't remember how long, at least a year, if not longer. Nothing, like nothing. And now I realize I'm stepping into this diet for energy, vitality, and clarity with my naturopath that in, and I'm not doing it perfectly. And part of it is not doing it perfectly. It's like, hey, being imperfectly perfect, like being okay with how things are going and seeing how that goes for a change. So healing from the asthma and also not drinking, I realized, because so many people are saying, oh, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink for a month or something else like that. And for me, I've done that for over a year. And at one point we had bought 69 bottles of wine in 3 days. Like not that we drank it all in 3 days, we drank it over the course of the summer probably, but drinking was a big part of our lives. And now it's not. You know, food is a big part of my life. Going out to eat for sure is a big part of my life. And that will change somewhat. And right now, juicing is a big part of my life. Smoothies are a big part of my life. So it's noticing all these changes. But the biggest one is going from a disease that I thought was incurable, that was lifelong. And I remember learning about it and being like, okay, yeah, of course this is lifelong. Like, of course, I am just managing the inflammation that comes up. That's all I can ever do because my lungs are so hyperreactive that they're always going to be hyperreactive. To now actually owning a cat, which for me before was a death sentence. And that's why I think it was in 2023 that we got the cat. I told my beloved that was the biggest risk I took. And I had gone to Aubrey Marcus and Fit for Service and spent tens of thousands of dollars on self-development, traveled a bunch to the US for the first time since pandemic, all this stuff. But the biggest risk I took that year was the cat because I knew she would fall in love with him. And what if I actually was so allergic that we needed to let him go? Like, who knows what might happen? And now it's, yeah, he's my cat. Like, he sleeps on me. Like, I love him. And this transition is crazy. It's ridiculous. It's unheard of in my reality. And I'm grateful for it happening because I benefit from having this kind of proof, both for myself and my own belief, my own certainty, and for when I share it with others. Like, everything is possible. I went in with a small intention to heal from that, not imagining I'd fully heal from it. And I healed from that, plus my childhood sadness, depression, the pain that I felt. And this is the story in my head that I took on from my parents because they'd lost a son just before me. So there was such worry and anxiety around me, and I didn't realize how much I took on. And letting that go, what a difference it made. And there was such pain in letting go. I dissolved into nothingness. It was the most challenging journey I've ever done. It was agonizing. And I went back for the second round. And it's funny, all these things that happened. And I can also talk the story because I have told the story before of how the soul of my unborn son came to me before he was actually born, like with the prediction of exactly the day of his due birth, of his due date. Like, So many crazy things have happened. And all of it is evidence both for myself and those are the stories to share for those who want to hear them. It doesn't mean it's the truth, but it sets a stage of credibility, so to speak. I've gone through my own, some people will say shaman's journey, healer's journey, medicine person's journey, to go through my dark night of the soul, to go through my own psychosis and keep coming back to this place. Because really, I can understand it now. Many people, including myself before this, would have said, if I have to go through that, I'm not doing it. And now there's a part of me that is trying not to go through that again. And I may be modulating some things, and it may be that I never have to go through the same kind of process again. I'm recognizing now the learnings don't have to come the same way. Like sometimes for me, a lot of the times now, when I'm in a clear present state with clients especially, it feels like it's pure perfection. And I'm reminded, just be here right now and trust the process. Trust the not doing. Because part of it for me is guiding people to the not more doing, to the trusting of themselves, trusting of who they are, trusting that sometimes they have different results than others because of their beingness, not because they've got some technique that's been figured out. And they may have a technique. It's both and. And it's funny that a lot of the people I'm attracted to right now are eye doctors because it's all about vision and sight. And I'm going to sign up for a course soon about seeing more clearly. And I want to see more clearly. I've had laser eye surgery and I can see there's fuzzy edges and I've got floaters and I've got dry eyes and I'd like all of that to clear up. And I've used Sananga as well, which is that drop in the eye that burns the crap out of them. And I might start using that again soon too. Like there's all these different modalities that can work differently that I've never thought of or expected. Like sometimes the medicines, the traditional medicines from the indigenous people that burn and hurt the most may actually serve too. And I've heard of so many different medicines, and the one that probably is the scariest that I've heard about is iboga. And I haven't gone there yet, and maybe someday, we'll see. So looking back at the past, I recognize that's the piece, and I'm going to keep coming back to that in the mirror work. How do I want to speak of it differently? How do I want to look at a different angle of it? How do I not look at a whole summary of it? I'm not trying to make a cohesive story for you because there's a part of me that sees someone watching this. And really, I'm saying for me. I heard some noise in the background and I'm worried someone might show up. And if they do, I'll probably say hello to them. And I'll probably see if I want to pause this. And either way is okay. It's a practice. Because again, can I see that the mirror work is for me, not for someone else? And if I don't get it right, I can still post it. It's actually better if I post it regardless. That's a piece I also learned from Alex Hormozi, the progression. The progression from where he was in a closet recording videos to where he is now with the whole studio team, and people will be like, it's so professionally done and everything else. And how does he want to do it? How do I want to do it, right? Do I want to draw drawings like he has? Do I want to just walk around? Do I want to have it just be me? Do I want to have it be interviews? And right now, the remembrance is undoing this for me. And as I'm doing it for me, because that's my highest value, myself, my motivation, my map of consciousness, my ability to deliver. And it's funny because it could be seen as narcissistic, me, but I realize that fully diving into that right now allows me to be the best version of myself as quickly as possible. I definitely heard someone out there now. All right, we'll see what happens. So, just taking that pause. Taking that pause. Just looking at the fire. That's part of why I want to be up here, because of the fire. Real fire, I find, is transmutational. Real fire is anything that burns, turning matter into energy and light, releasing, unlocking. just feeling the sensations in the gut. The nervousness, it was fine when I knew it was just me. That's part of it. In the future, I plan to have a home where I have my own recording studio of some kind. Because there's a little piece of me that doesn't feel safe when I might be interrupted. And there's a part of me right now that this is great practice, because at any point I could be interrupted in anything I'm doing. And can I be with it? That's what I realized yesterday. We were talking about all the challenges right now, because we've been creating places and spaces with friends and close people that it feels like, why did I invite that challenge in, especially if I'm doing a favor? And I said, the best thing that could happen is this right now, because it's building our capacity to talk with each other, to discuss this, to say what we do in future in a safe way, actually. Because it doesn't impact my work, money, Sage's health, anything. It doesn't impact our home, our livelihood, our families, and there's impact. So how do we be with the impact, and how do we not go towards blaming of other? Because there's many places I could blame. I could blame the whole cosmos for everything's happening, and I can remember it's perfect, right? Coming back to it's perfect. Okay, so how do I actually be clear when a favor is a favor? How do I be clear in the agreements that I make? How do I have more clarity? Because that's the thing that was requested. And so grateful for that. Clarity is the word I want this year. That's all we need is more clarity. And clarity means different things to different people. That's also part of it, right? More is not better. And so that's part of my practice right now. Because I could give clarity over how I see money, how I see that the currency ideal is the trust. And that's not really what's needed in a way. And there's part of me that wants to preach. So I'm going to own that. I want to preach some because I want the world to look more the way I want it to look. And I think I've gotten some wisdom now, so I have some capacity to preach and some justification for preaching. And it's important to own that too, right? It's important to own that. I'm going to own the part that I actually really enjoy this face tracking right now. I don't know if it's saving and storing my face and transmitting it into the cosmos, but I'm really enjoying that the face tracking exists. Just wanted to say that out loud. I love that I'm taking moments to be like, fuck, technology is freaking amazing. And it can be the death of us, right? Like AI. And I just finished watching Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 and really enjoying the Mission Impossible movies again and remembering that Mission Impossible is a big part of our lives growing up. We watched the TV show together as a family, like every week for a while. And I love that premise, right? Like this is your mission. Should you choose to accept it, this will self-destruct in 5 seconds, and being with cutting edge technology, because it always was cutting edge technology and espionage and stories and layers and masks and everything else. And watching this, and really the threat that's threatening the world is AI. And this AI is sentient, and it's enabled some humans to work with it, and they're working in sync with it. And how do you outpredict something that's a prediction machine? And then recognizing it's doing the unpredictable, it's letting go, it's actually not succumbing to the outcomes that it's trying to draw you into. And then now, my version of making an impact, I'm not going to be a super spy like Ethan Hawke, like Tom Cruise. I am going to practice my own consciousness and raising the consciousness of others and hopefully guiding them towards at least courage. And I'm wondering what happens when we have a collective consciousness that rises above courage. And the remembrance, and the higher we can go, I think the more we're able to stand on our own 2 feet. So if everything feels like it's crumbling around, still being able to maintain that level of consciousness. Because consciousness isn't in isolation. It's one thing to say I can maintain that courage when no one else is around. Can I actually maintain it? And that's part of the refinement of my soul that I have with my beloved and my family. They're here to ground me all the time when I feel like I've got lost in the cosmos. And I am joy, and I am love, and I am peace, and I am harmony, and I am enlightenment. And it's like, boom, back down to the earth. Oh yes, I may be those things while in a ceremonial state, while people are receiving their healing, while they're looking at me in a certain way. But am I that all the time? And it's such a difference. And do I want to be there yet all the time? And can I be there all the time? all those things. So there's a part of me that likes preaching still, which is a reminder there's still that part that wants to convince. And the more that I am actually able to be with my consciousness, the less that I'll want that, I imagine, because I'm not trying to rush anyone's healing. And I love that idea that one person at this level of consciousness can impact so many more people. And that's my desire, to have the impact. And the impact without having to do anything either. Oh, wow, that's great. And I love that from a book that I read as a child, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I can think, I can wait, I can fast. And I realize I've gained all those skills. I can think, doing that right now, contemplating. I can wait. I have that patience now. Sometimes I have trouble, but I have that patience now, that possibility of patience, and I can fast. I can go without eating. And so that allows me the ability to have a space between stimulus and response. So where was I? Oh, yes. So these challenges and money and transacting and favors and just being clear without preaching more than I have to. It's about making clarity so that it can be seen what I mean by favor. And for me, my most valuable resources is time and presence. And so this work right now, if I had said this is for you, then I'm putting my time presence into you. That's not my highest value yet. This nameless new especially. My highest value is me. So that's why I can actually say, oh, I'm going to take hours doing these recordings because my own map of consciousness is the most important thing. The second one is for my family, and they're already starting to see the differences as I'm actually looking at myself and my tendencies and my background. So I'm serving them as well. And I'm serving my Ohana because, yes, this is whoever signed up for my Ohana, and I'm going to get this going on my Ohana Breath website. And then it's helping my founders out in my businesses because I'm getting clear on how I'm going to present and getting a body of work that I can actually make myself more visible. And it's helping the financial wealth because eventually all of this will trickle down. So I can see it, how it impacts my highest values. And that's a piece that I really love, is that I'm pointing people to Dr. Demartini's highest values, partly because there's an affiliate link as well, but partly because I really value what he's done. And eventually I want to create my own version of that. And I don't know how it's going to go yet. I'm planting the seed for myself because I realize I have a different grouping of things. And sometimes I wonder, are we having too many tools? And there's an unlimited number of paths to self-enlightenment, self-consciousness, and different paths for different people. Even the soul immersion that we're creating, it's one path. It can only impact so many people right now. And I'm telling people about the framework because if they steal it, they'll steal their version. And if they steal my version, yeah. And I'm not trying to tell them more about the details of my back end yet. Let me remind myself of that. I'm not trying to. Sometimes there's been a part trying to give it away because I don't want to do it myself. A big part of this is actually following through. This year, having those 45 clients come through, 45 plus. I think 55 plus is what my last brain came to. And then letting it go because there's an internal pressure going, oh, we're not already doing it. Enjoying the hair more right now. Definitely enjoying the hair more right now. Enjoying the look, the waviness. Grateful for the lack of gray hair so far, and my mind and my ego are taking it as I'm on the right path. And I'm reminding myself as they start appearing, it doesn't mean I'm on the wrong path. I get to be distinguished in that way too. And how do I keep nourishing and vitalizing my body in a way that serves? How do I keep listening to it? Perhaps it's a way for me to notice. Perhaps it's the universe being kind. It was like after I healed from my asthma, I didn't know, first of all, because it was one day at a time. Like, it's such a funny word, healed from it. It's like, I never had this diagnosis like, oh, you're cancer-free and you're going to live and have a prognosis. Even now, I don't know. Like, tomorrow things could change. Today things could change. But after I healed from it, easiest way to talk about it, I didn't get sick at all for a few years. And I thought, oh my God, it's a sign, never get sick again. And then when I got sick again, first I was like, what's going on? And it took me a few sicknesses to realize, oh my God, it's so good sometimes to take a break. And oh, I was using sickness before as a younger year to say, this is the only time I can actually have fun. And now I was having fun again. And how can I practice actually having days where like, I'm going to take today off? Not because I'm sick, because I want to take today off. Like today, for me, with family, going to take off a little bit because there's some illness going on. So not try to push, not try to have a bunch of stuff happen. So today, going to go to the farmer's market, going to go to the Life Masters Zoom call. And aside from that, not a lot. And we'll see if we actually can go to the States tomorrow without pushing. And so, yeah, I didn't get sick. And now I can realize, oh my God, every time I get sick, so to speak, it's great because I actually try to drive myself into fever. I get on the covers and I huff and I puff. I'm like, how high can I get this? And I recognize it now because it actually fits in with German New Medicine a little bit. The thing that happened in the illness usually is different from when you're actually actively feeling that coughing, phlegming, all this. That's actually usually the resolution where it feels like the bacteria and the viruses are attacking us. They're helping us break down the excess tissue, right? The excess tissue. And how much excess tissue is in our bodies. Like that's the piece without trying to judge, but noticing that massive morbid obesity, all that excess tissue. And if you really could own that that excess tissue is what you want in this lifetime, kudos. Is that where you want to spend your energy? And for myself, it's even noticing, because I was saying, oh, I don't need to exercise more, do more. It's like, where's my mobility? Because my son is helping to see, oh my God, I am stiff still, so I do want to get some help and support. Oh my God, I'm feeling like I need to rest so much. Oh, do I really want that kind of fatigue and tiredness? And part of it's because my beloved's still healing and she's got a lot of fatigue and tiredness. And so part of me was getting away with the fact that I don't have to be more energetic. And then I love that I started waking up early and having all these extra hours and like, what do I do with this time? And I was spending so much time meditating and listening to podcasts and all this stuff. And sometimes getting sucked in reading news. And now I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to spend more time doing this mirror work, seeing myself, going through these stories, unpacking, unraveling them. There's a story I have of the separation with my brother. Like all the relationships that lasted the longest in my life, I recognize there's something there. There's been a separation. Even with my best friend right now, I haven't seen him in months. I haven't chatted with him in months. I haven't chatted with him this year, really. And so it's time to give him a call, see what's going on. Being reminded of friends right now, because when I was in medical school, one of the big reasons for leaving was my dear friend Evo died from a ice climbing accident, and that split up my core nucleus, Janice, Kimber, myself. We were all interlinked, and without that interlinking, without that support, who am I in this hardest of hardest things to do for myself, going through a residency? Yeah. And then noticing the medical training, the whole point of it now is to let go of who you think you are to become who you think you need to be in the system for outside approval. And even now, that's a hard part of me, and I'm glad that's part of the reason of having founders, people who see me, who are reminding me to be me. And that was the first retreat. There was one of the ceremonies where coming out of it, I was like, tell me who you want me to be. And I had just the right person, Laura, there. And he's like, no, 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 don't you do that. We need you to be the medicine man. And she guided me back to myself, to the strength, to the warriors. Like, oh, I'm going to dance around and I don't know what I'm doing and I do know what I'm doing, and going around to people and trusting myself because that's who I am. That's me in my highest, when I can dance around in a room and work the room and trust myself. Because in my play and in my trust of myself, I'm inviting others to do the same. And sometimes they may get it wrong, and how do I help them be like, that's okay. Just notice when you're overriding someone else. That's the piece. If I can keep learning, am I overriding someone? Like overriding them versus getting in their space. It's okay to get in their space sometimes, but overriding them, not so okay. Safety versus comfort, right? I want you to feel safe, but you may be uncomfortable around me at times. You may feel unfamiliar. You may feel unfamiliar with, especially the closeness, with the length of the hugs, with the eye contact, eye gazing, the smiles. And I'm having more fun with this now. And that's my reminder. My role in life is to have fun. Like when I was working and doing the breath the other day, I was like, I'm just having fun. I remind them, can you see how much fun I'm having doing my work? And I know it's work too. And I look forward to doing more of that work and recording myself more while I'm doing it. That's part of it. I'll be recording myself more doing it, not knowing what I'm going to do with all these recordings yet. That's part of the fun and the magic. I might try some of these, like the pet version of this, and just see how it goes. It's gray skies here. I'm not a huge fan of gray skies. I mean, it's more soft light. And as a practice, how can I be with whatever weather is present and just love it the way it is? How do I invite people over soon to help me out with the handiwork stuff? Thursday, I'm going to get my dear friend Lori to come over to help me with decluttering and unpacking because I really want to clear out the second bedroom. And I'm scared. I am scared of letting go of stuff. Letting go of some of the wood. Part of me does want to let go of some of these things, like there's accumulated sticks and logs that are at our place. Because it feels like they mean something to me. It feels like they could be turned into something, and having held onto them so long, there's some energy, some essence that they've gathered from us. And that's part of it in the future home, is to have a workshop or a storage place, for sure. Storage, such an interesting thing. There's so many places to store things. So many places to store things and so many things to give away. Like I gave away the throat chakra thing that I'd gotten from my friend Isaac Matthews, one of my most precious things, and I'm grateful I did. I've given away one of my breath wave EMF necklaces, which is so important. I'm glad I did. Giving things away that matter to me. And that practice has been really good. And thank you, Robin Clements, for teaching the giveaway ceremony. That really helped. And what next? I don't know. What next in life? I don't know. This is the liftoff right now. This is the beginning stages of this company. And there are a lot of changes, and there's fears, and there's roadblocks, and there's challenges. And right now it feels like it's an income money challenge. Like we don't have people coming in to justify all the expenses. And then it's more complex than I thought. And I was laughing at someone else, like I was going to invest in this sprouting seed company, and realizing they were trying to create and have a day-to-day CEO, and that the takeover of a bankrupt company is harder than they thought. And it's just funny because there had been such interest generated from people who aren't that savvy at investing. And I still haven't reached out to that other investor. There's so many places and contacts to make. And I'm going to do that soon. That's probably part of it. I've been busy with my own company. And I can say that and share that. And if she's interested, I'm happy to share it. And right now it's with Danielle, I look forward to connecting with today. Because I think we have synergies in our companies. I'm just rambling and rattling things off that are in the back of my head. There's all these things that are going on there all the time. And is it the back here? Is it out there? Is it tuning in? What I'm appreciating more is being able to both use my brain and let go of using my brain. That's part of this mirror work, right? I talked about this before yesterday, the channeling, like how do I get my own clear channel to come through? Clarity of all the energy coming in down through me, coming back up and then through my throat, and then not actually being as impeded by all the cloudiness, all the fear, all the judgment. And noticing, I was saying this to my client the other day, noticing as they're talking about something, they went from this powerful, wise parent and business owner, all this, to small, and I can't even give an example. Oh, sorry about that. Oopsie. Like this. And then how am I noticing about myself? Like as I'm recording these videos, I can notice I'm in my strength and in my power. Let's move back and get some drink. Oof. And as I say that, let's actually step back into power, right? Let's start actually moving self again, stretching a little bit. And sometimes that's a reminder, letting the body do what it needs to do. Moving the hips, getting some tea. I woke up, I knew I was dehydrated, but I didn't want to start the blender, start the juicer yet. And we're lacking the juicing stuff right now. I look forward to seeing our friends at Forstbauer, the biodynamic farmers. It's funny, it used to just be called farming, and now it's biodynamic farming. As we're actually listening and working with the land. Like, how crazy is that, listening and working with the land? That's something that's new and different. And it's hard. I was talking with my dear friend back in PEI, Mark, and he's doing farming. He wanted to do organic, but no one else is doing organic, so he's doing conventional, because otherwise, how do other people look at you? What do you learn from? How do you actually control the pests? Because there's so many pests, it takes so much. And I'm grateful for him, because there's a part. So Mark is a dear friend from growing up, and probably this time I'll want to spend some time there and actually have a chat with him, because one of the things I can acknowledge him for is his ability to live his life on his terms. Like, he's always been that. And I had been a chameleon trying to be things for others, where he's like, I'm just doing my thing. And he would draw a lot of ire. There would definitely be pushback, and I didn't want that. And that's part of it, even here doing this mirror work, I'm realizing now. See, there's these clues I'm giving myself. There may be pushback to what I'm doing, to how I'm presenting myself, to how I'm seeing myself, to how I'm being seen. And I'm doing this before it's being noticed, because I'm getting ahead of myself, so that if that time comes, not when, if that time comes, that I'm at a different stage of my own consciousness. And so acknowledging someone like him, because he's gone from business to farm to, because I was like, oh, how do I play a part in this? How can I invest, all this stuff? And he's always been like, I can see, he's like, I don't want to be clouded. And he's got amazing kids. His oldest daughter especially, so cool. Love the name, love the reading, love the beingness of it all. And I can tell how smart they are, and he values intelligence. And that's a part of it for me. I value intelligence, and I can see different ways of shaping, molding, developing it. How do we ask the questions without telling them that these are the right answers? Like, I have so many things that I think I know, and I'm better at not knowing anymore. So I'm going to talk to my beloved about, hey, do you want to stay there or near them or with them for a bit? Because I actually would. A little bit of farm time is a good thing. So what else is there? What else is there today? We're almost at an hour right now, which is crazy to think about. And I was saying to my beloved, hey, can you imagine doing an hour of this? She's like, no. I was like, this is part of my gift now. If I can do an hour of this self-contemplation, and eventually probably do this in the midst of a darkness retreat, probably do this in the midst of my own journeying, having different microphones, picking up different sounds, being able to isolate sounds out of things. I look forward to it. I look so forward to it. Having good audio in those situations. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. And just trusting someone else to be able to help modulate and clean up the audio. Not worrying about it. Oh, man. Just letting the burps come through too. So many burps. This life is more fun than I could ever imagine. This life has more to offer than I could ever imagine. And that's the part, I think, why I'm excited about the map of consciousness as well. Because I'm like, what is there at that next level? What is there at that? And it's logarithmic, right? It's not linear. Like linear, I'm like, I could see myself getting to the end of this lifetime. No, it's like every time it's 10 times more. Right? That's why people are like, oh my God, I want to go 5 points. Like 5 points is a lot of points. 5 points is 10,000 times more. 10,000 or 100,000? 100,000. I don't know. 10 is log 1. 100 is log 2. 1,000 is log 3. 10,000 is log 4. 100,000 is log 5. And the human mind, in the way I've been trained, doesn't learn like that, because because. And then thinking about quantum, like things can be in the opposite ends of the galaxy and still be in sync. Like that's this three-body problem is starting to bring into the scope ideas that are so big. And that's the same thing that happened with Isaac Asimov and his whole idea of positronics, or robots that look human, that have these really complex minds, and obey the three laws of robotics, like first, can't harm a human or stuff like that. And then the integration of that into his series Foundation, which is about psychohistory, being able to predict the future masses of people. And that plays a part so much now. And I can see that possibility, right? There is a part where history where history rhymes. And so many of us are using it right now, and using it to get ahead, or trying to get ahead, and buying gold and silver, and then buying the cryptocurrencies and all these things. And how do I be with all these changes and not try to get caught up with them? Let's actually put in a couple sell orders today for some of the ETFs, eh? Just have fun with it, because if it gets 50% above, let's sell a little bit. Really enjoying this life. Really enjoying this life. Noticing still the difference in the eyes. I've got a double eyelid here on the left side, single eyelid on the right side. Slightly bigger, slightly smaller. And loving the way I look. And it's okay to say that. It's funny that I went through life feeling like the ugly duckling, and now I'm like, I actually like the way I look. It's funny that one of my acting people I really like is Tom Cruise, and for a while I thought it was ridiculous with the Scientology, and it's probably something to look into a little bit more because of the way it had been portrayed. It was ridiculous. Like, oh my God, you believe in all this stuff? You don't believe in antidepressants or painkillers during birth? You are such a savage and trying to control people. And now there's a piece of us that wants to step into more natural birthing, right? Wants to step away from these antidepressants, which probably don't really work that well. And I really appreciate Tony Robbins for being willing to be part of studies to show how much more of an impact, if you want to look at it comparatively, he makes with his seminars. And yes, there is some self-selection, all that stuff, but why not the fuck self-select? And then have the impacts. And why do we judge the impact that's being made only because instead of taking some kind of pharmaceutical, some kind of chemical to alter the neurochemistry, which the story was compelling enough to make sense, which is why it happened for so long, that you're having the results, and it could just be from talk, from someone dancing and screaming, being excited and having such certainty, that they're helping guide you to your own certainty. Because that's just it, our own certainty. Like my own certainty now that I've healed from my asthma is a big part of why I've healed from my asthma. And I don't really waver from it. And I'm not so attached to it that I can't be like, oh, I coughed. Oh my God, what does this mean? Because I can still see it when my parents, and again, love them, there's a part of me that does hold back from coughing in front of them or wanting to chat with them when I'm quote unquote sick, because what will they think and what will they say? I got to deal with, oh, you're coughing, you must be sick. I'm like, how can I actually just be with that? Say, thank you for your concern, and leave it at that. Not even have an explain or justify myself. Oh, sorry if that made a lot of noise. That's a big part of it, because with them, I definitely feel like I need to justify, explain myself. There's still a part of me that is that little boy, and I'm spending more time with them because I'm actually the fastest way I can see to heal that little boy with both discomfort, but also safety, because I'm totally safe with them. And super uncomfortable. Like being with adult parents is probably the epitome of safety versus comfort. That's something, as I'm saying now, I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely something to use for my call. And it doesn't mean that is the case for everyone. I'm saying this for most people. For some people, it still is unsafe, but the relative unsafety is much less than when you were a child. That part I think is true. You're no longer dependent and helpless in many ways. And if you are living with your parents still and getting money from them, there is a bit of dependency, but there still is the adultness in you that can leave the home without having to get emancipated and brought back. Let's put it that way, right? So there is truth to it as well. And I say all of this to remind myself, there is such freedom. And the same thing with people I've known the longest, whether it's my brother, whether it's my best friends, there's a safety there. There's a safety there. Never deny the safety. Don't be so foolish. I hear children's voices. I hear children's voices, and we'll have to see if they're coming up this way. Again, I can hear my own fear. My own fear of being seen in the real world. And that's part of it. Right now I can do this in front of the camera, and it could be for thousands, millions, billions of people eventually. Live in front of people. Could I do this? I probably could, actually. I probably could. And if it was the case of how long could I go for this, that will be interesting at some point in time. I will probably at some point in time do like a multi-hour mirror work until the batteries actually die. Probably having to stop partway through actually charging in different ways. That will be interesting. Charging the batteries in different ways. And that's okay. I can pause and then pick it up again right away. Yeah. I have transitionary recording devices. I have 2 devices, so go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's going to be so interesting. So interesting. To me, doing all this stuff. To me. So, what else is there for today? There's an infinite number of things, actually. A wise sage looks at eternity. And I'm just glancing at eternity right now. The eternity that I know. And I was with my son yesterday and looking at him going, this is where we used to live before you were born. And I realized, in a way, that's incomprehensible, as if there was a before you were born. For me, the idea of before me exists. But the reality of it, the seeingness of it, the actual seeing in 3D, the smelling, the touching does not exist. Ooh, all those senses do not exist outside of the seeing and the hearing and the reading some. And so does it exist then? The tactile, proprioceptive nature of the energetics of it. So interesting. But then if I look at it that way, then the rest of the world doesn't exist either until I'm actually there. Again, we create our own reality. I find it a lot of fun now playing with all these ideas. I used to hate it. Like, why do philosophy? And I think it's when I try to understand the really rational arguments that people are trying to put forward. I'm not there yet, not desiring to be there yet. The mathematics of it aren't as interesting to me yet. So Robert Grant, I really wanted to be with him, but then it got a little bit too arrogant, a little bit too deep, a little bit too complex. And I want to be with him and Matthias in Egypt sometime. I want to learn from them. I think that they are absolute masters of Egypt. And the fact that I haven't been there yet, it's still part of my own journey. And part of it is, how do I be me first? And that's the thing I keep coming back to. It's almost like the more I'm actually confident in myself, the more I'm able to do with others and learn from others, because the size of the teacher I'm ready to be with is directly correlated with who I am. And the intimacy I'm willing to create with them is directly correlated with who I already know I am to be. Because then I'm not trying to be them. I'm not trying to be taken over. I'm not trying to get their approval. And I want to learn from them. I totally want to learn from them. I want to learn the mastery of who they are. And I want to step into their shoes. And so for some of them, Like Elena, it's like, oh, she's growing up with a dad like Dr. John Demartini. Like, I want to learn from someone who's had such close, intimate contact with him for all these years. And there's just a knowingness and understanding. And so for me, my work right now is to come up with better questions, is to really just start seeing the questions, just start coming up with them. Let go of trying to figure out the answers to things. And probably every few months doing another course, right? Doing another course and getting some more questions being able to be answered. Like, that's probably going to be the most efficient way to do that work. I'm excited. I'm excited. I am really excited with doing this work. Learning. And then, what's the second thing I was just thinking of? Oh yeah, this mom of 3, Ellie, and her ability to be with her own sensuality, with her own expression of self. Like, I'm looking forward to that, the physicality of the body. I've lost sight of expressing myself in that way. And then expressing myself as a business leader, as success. That's probably me reaching out to Hella. And I'm going to reach out to her again. And I'm getting better now at not criticizing myself for not having already done something. Like, I can keep beating myself up, or I can keep speaking out loud when I'm doing this mirror work and just notice it's still there. It's still there in the background. Okay. Am I going to do something about it? I get to choose. I get to keep choosing. I'm going to try tilting this a little bit. Choice. I always have a choice. That was one of the 3 things that came to me all at once in a meditation after my son was born. I always have a choice. And it was really important to see that. It was really important to see that. Let's see here. Because for a while I felt like trapped. I have to, I need to, I should. Right? I always have a choice. Oh man, shit. This is my choice to do this. This is my choice not to do this. Whatever I have done or I have not done, I'm worthy of love. That's such a great affirmation incantation. And I think it was, I'm going to attribute Aubrey Marcus, I'm not sure. Shifting from affirmations to incantations. It's like, I don't just say something. I realize I'm casting a spell. And not in the airy-fairy way. I'm literally casting a spell. Every word is casting a spell. And that's part of this mirror work, is to be more clear and direct with the spells that I'm casting. And as I'm recording this, I'm even more clear. Even if I don't think in the etheric world casting a spell, I am casting a spell in the real world. Oh man, I'm owning what I'm saying. And owning it, it's funny, we keep going back to the past and villainizing people for things that they said and say, do you still stand by this? And they can say yes. And I'm like, at some point in the future, it's probably gonna come back to me for all this stuff. Do you still stand by this? I'm like, well, I said it at that point in time. So yes, I stand by the fact that I said it. And now I could have a different opinion, and everything that I said led me to right now. Right? Even statements that may seem racist to someone else, may seem all the different bad ists. It's like it's leading me to where I am. And how could I want to deny it? We're asking people to deny themselves and to self-censor. And isn't that 1984, right? Self-censoring. And thinking that that's better. It's almost morally superior if I can self-censor myself versus just blurt out the thing. Like, I love that idea of Tourette syndrome and just saying this thing, fuck, 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 fuck. It's like, oh, okay, they can just say the thing. and the shame that can come with that, or the freedom that can come with that. The freedom to be like, hey, I'm going to say whatever comes up, no matter what. I'm going to be who I am unapologetically. And the judgment comes from, you're not being the person I think you're supposed to be in the role that you're in. Like, in the role that I'm in often as the lead facilitator, I may have a certain way I'm supposed to be. And now I realize, I love that line that I'm going to say I came up with. Someone else probably said this, but spiritual work doesn't have to be serious. It can be fun. Like, I want to keep having fun. And if I'm not having fun, then I'm probably trying too fucking hard. Trying to push, trying to pull, trying to convince, trying to cajole. Versus just playing with your inner child as well and reminding them that they're safe. And I love that shift. Your inner child is already powerful, free, safe. It's your ego's interpretation of the inner child that's different. Like our inner children, our real inner children, that part of our soul that came into this world, chose all the things that's going on, is part of my own belief system now. It doesn't mean I can explain all the outliers in terms of the examples people can come up with, because we always want to go to the outliers. Then, what about this? What about that? I'm like, I could spend a lot of time trying to philosophize and explain that. I'm not trying to. All I can say is it works for me right now. And I'm going to keep practicing and playing and noodling with the idea. And I may eventually change it, because everything is a story. So that's the second thing that came up during that meditation after my son was born. It's like everything's a story, everything you think you've learned. And my beloved got that message too. Are you ready to unlearn everything? Are you ready to let go of everything you thought you knew? And over, we've been doing that. Our ideas of money, our ideas of time, our ideas of connection, my idea of family. Like, I was surviving my parents' survival. Like, okay, I can put up with them for a week. Okay, let's do it. And now I'm excited to see them, and not excited at the same time, because there's a part of me going, oh my God, there's all these other things to do, but I'm excited to see them because I'm like, it's gonna be so much growth. And one of my co-founders right now is having her last day with her sister. I'm like, I'm excited that you're with her, because you're gonna have so much growth just from being with your sister for so long that it's gonna impact us as well. And that's what I want. I want my company, I say my company because it really is my baby that I'm starting, and now with founders, so we're actually sharing it. But my company to embrace these other ways of being, embrace family, embrace life and living, and being able to make choices. And yes, I will have to step into leader sometimes and say no at times, like, no, like this is what we're doing, and there will be sacrifices. But right now, in this current state, I'm not pushing for sacrifices that I don't know are actually really important. And that's the piece that I think, like, I'm reading about Elon Musk's early days with SpaceX. And you could say, man, he was a slave driver. And I used to think that about Steve Jobs. But with that clarity of vision, it's the vision that's so clear. And he can say, you're either with me or get the fuck out of here. And be able to say that not because I'm like, fuck you, but I'm so clear. And I love that part where he's like, he looked around, it's like, I hired all these people, I did a really good job, I got a really good team, and that's the part that's there. And that's me. I still haven't gone through some challenging hiring processes, and I've had all these assistants come through that haven't really worked out, and a big part of it's because it's me. I'm not clear in what I want and what I need. And so when I'm bringing them in, it's not actually serving them or me. And so that's part of it probably right now with Caitlin, for example. I'm looking at her going, oh, she's got all these skills. I'm like, how do I clearly use her if I'm gonna bring her on? How do I clearly use all these skills? And that's the piece right now. I'm practicing my own clarity. Because without my clarity, the business lacks clarity. Without my vision, the business lacks vision. So I'm gonna sign up for that vision course. And I keep saying it, and I almost need to keep saying it because there's a part of me that's scared of doing it. There's a part of me that's scared of stepping into the next role. It's trying to figure out the next step instead of being like, what's the first step? What's the first step? Take the first step. Take the first step. Create that video, create that piece that's there. Let go of the rest. Okay, one piece at a time. That's the work today, even with this mirror work. It's like, I decided, I usually do work before the mirror work even. Like, I'm recording my own daily gratitude, daily musings. Mirror work now, I'm calling it. And in that work, it's just saying, what is it that I need to get out that I may feel a little bit less comfortable saying in public, whether it's names or other things as well. And actually just saying it, blurting it out. And I'm doing that now before I offer sessions usually. And I forgot to in my last session, but that's what I want to do. It's practicing getting it out so that when I'm there, I'm more clear. Because I've recognized one of my greatest gifts when I'm preparing for a talk is having the talk multiple times. And then eventually listening to some of the finaler versions. And then from there being able to hear myself. And hearing myself is sometimes the biggest challenge. And for something that's that important, it is important to do. And eventually I'll get to the point where I don't need to do that. But initially, very useful. And my beloved reminded me, remember when you did the living room series? This is a talk I did way back. Wow, probably about 2017, 2018. I'd gotten connected from my friend Devin, and then I met Gord through it, and it was a talk about my burnout from medicine, and getting more and more clear on that, and having the talks with myself, and then practicing even. I practiced it, I think, at the engagement party of David, and then did the talk. Man, so many crazy things have happened. I'm just thinking now, oh yeah, it was David and Sal that we did that little journey with. Oh, wow. Wow. So many cool things. So many cool things have happened. Yeah. And then my brain's just jumping around. I've been reached out by a wife of a friend, and she's a friend now too, and she's thinking about going into coaching and coaching former teachers because she's a former teacher, and just realizing how that mirrors my past. I left medicine when I first heard about coaching. It's like, oh my God, I need to coach doctors. Oh, I need to do it right now, teach them how to become me. And the wisdom I have now is I wasn't actually me yet. I'd gotten to the point where I realized not want to be a doctor, but not knowing who I want to be. And without knowing who I want to be, oh my God, when I was in the presence of a doctor, they could tear me apart, because that kind of knowledge is like, you don't know who you are, you're not even making the money yet, all this stuff. And now it's getting to the point where, oh, I can actually stand on my own 2 feet, and that's a very different person coming to meet them. And I look forward to going to a reunion at some point in time from this place, and probably it's going to be 2026, I think, is the graduation. So next year, God help me, next year. Just to see, because there's so much learning that will come out of that, right? Oh, what do you do? I'm a soul doctor now. What does that mean? I work in altered states of consciousness to help you get to the root cause of things. Healed from my asthma, allergies, have a family, all that kind of stuff. Know who I am now, enjoying life. And my work is to get to the point where I'm really confident in all the areas of my life and not there to show off. And there'll be a part that's showing off still, right? Because I want to, actually. Part of me is overcoming that piece. My dad, bless him, has won lots of awards because he's done lots of good. But it's like, I didn't do it for the award. I'm like, yeah, I know you didn't do it for the award, but can you actually acknowledge that you received an award, that you're receiving an award, and allow the congratulations to come through, the celebration? And that's the piece that I did recently with a client. It's like, yeah, if you can't celebrate your wins, the bigger and the bigger the wins, the bigger and bigger the burdens are. And I love that when they said that about the Kansas City Chiefs, part of the reason why they may have lost is that after you win, when you win your first time, you're like, oh my God, I won, I broke through, this is amazing. And then when you win your second time, you're like, yes. And then you're realizing it's almost expected. So you're trying to win to avoid the pain of not winning. The pain of not winning, being told, oh, you were so close and you missed it. And they got so close and they missed it. Partly, I think that's a big part of it. Like mentally, it's like, do I actually want to win? Everyone's calling me a villain for winning all these and taking it away from others. And no one's really, like, people are going to celebrate, but there's going to be so much vitriol against us. Maybe it's better just not to win. But even in the not winning, you're still going to get the vitriol. Like, that's the thing, you can't win in that situation. In that comparison game, you get to the point where you're no longer the underdog. Where some people eventually will call you the GOAT, the greatest of all time, but in the moment will villainize you, going, you broke the sport. It's no longer fun. It's no longer exciting to watch because you don't know who's going to win, and da-da-da-da-da. And part of the reason Tom Brady kind of got the GOAT was because of his comebacks. If he was always in the lead, it'd just be like, ugh, like Michael Phelps when he was winning. It was like, after a while, I was like, I don't want to see him win anymore. And then he was no longer dominating. It's like, oh, it'd be nice to see him win again. It's so funny as humans. Such a trap, comparison. Even competition can be a trap. Competition based on certain rules. Like when we have the rules set in stone, good, bad, and different. Yeah, just watching the evolution of sports and video review and being so precise to the millisecond versus, that was good enough, right? And then all the flopping that's happening. And it's an arms race, right? People are going to do what they can do. And then how do you not do it? How do you prevent it? How do you make, then are you creating real injuries? Like, all of this stuff is so crazy. The unintended consequences of the rules that we make, of the force we try to apply to life. And right now, I can recognize there's this idea of the sovereign child. I really like that idea. And I don't know how to step into it fully, like just letting your kid do whatever they want to learn how to self-regulate, learn how to appease themselves. And it's hard in this day and age when so much stuff is engineered, like candies are engineered to be addictive. YouTube is engineered to be addictive. Like, and I'm going on YouTube now, but I don't want him to watch YouTube. Even myself, my own feed, there's so many things that are there that I want to watch. And I recognize the addictiveness that's there. I don't know the answer to this. I don't know the answer to this. And I do know it's challenging to be with. It's funny, as I'm seeing myself being this extended, I realize we could condense it a little bit. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things go. We can make it in a square shape. I don't know. There's so many things that I'm coming up with that could be better. Especially for these long formats, right? These long formats are usually watched on a wider screen if they're going to be watched. Most of this is going to be listened to, if anything. And again, I'm doing this for me. It's a little secret that I'm saying to me to remind me of me. And I'm still going with this because I want to see how I go for. It's a practice. It's a play. It's a bit of an addiction too, right? It's like, oh, let's keep beating it. I could beat it by a little, or I could beat it by a lot, and then let go of needing to beat it as well. At some point, I'm going to let go of needing to beat this over and over again. Watching the fire, watching the world come online. Watching the world come online. Maybe going outside for a bit too. Shall we see that? Ooh, that's a new one. I haven't done that before yet. While recording one of these videos, going outside, because I was like, oh, the noise. Making sure I've got keys so I don't get locked out. Thought I heard a noise on the other side. It was just the echoes of things. Being outside in the sunshine, and that's what I want to be. It's raining today. And I want to be out here in the sunshine because I'm here to get some first light. So I'm going to look away off in the distance and just get some first light. Remind myself the sun is out there behind the clouds. Remind myself that it's okay to have all of this. Remind myself that there's a button here for noise cancellation. So I think I just turned up noise cancellation. And if I didn't, that's okay. It's 1:23. I'll just check it out later and see if it actually helped. I'm going to turn it off again and see if that changes. There we go. Such a good life. There's a SkyTrain coming by. And I'm wondering if the train energy helps to move things. Yesterday we were back in Richmond and I'm going to turn on the noise cancellation again because there's going to be another train coming by soon. And there were planes coming by and my son loved it. And I was like, oh yeah, we used to have trains or planes flying by us all the time. And what was that like? What was it like to have planes? And it's funny, I can actually hear a plane in the distance right now. Oh, and here comes the other train. We'll see if it makes as much of an impact on the noise. Definitely, I think the noise cancellation made a difference. Definitely, I think it made a difference. And I'm going to leave it on for right now then. Hello, self. Hello, cosmos. Hello, world. Hello, Ohana. And the word Ohana, yeah, is that cultural appropriation. And in a way, yes, because I wasn't born in Hawaii. And in a way, no. Like, my brother was born in Hawaii. It's funny enough that my parents went through, and it's funny enough that I feel like I'm going to be living there. And I feel that we almost make it too big a thing. Oh, there's another light that comes on. Interesting. So I'll have to see if that light means noise cancellation is on or off. I think that means it's off. Okay. That is cool. See? There's so many learnings, and I love technology when it actually has a purpose. Yeah, I was looking at another version of these microphones thinking, oh, should I switch? And I was like, how much time do I want to waste doing this? And there's a reason why I chose this. And now I'm seeing more and more that there are lights in this and actually helps guide it. That there's a little function here can change the gain right away, and that's actually important. And that I want something super simple and plug and play. Like eventually, yeah, let's get some more professional stuff when I've got professionals who know how to manage it, who can do all the editing. I'm doing zero fucking editing because that's not the point of this. The point of this is for me to talk to me and do the mirror work. And do the mirror work without actually just doing the mirror work. I want it to serve something else as well. I want to serve the greater good. And then all the things that I'm choosing to do, I was just thinking, I could have signed up for Tony Robbins AI and I didn't. And I'm like, I don't need to yet. I don't need to yet. Oh, there's people there. Ciao for now. Yeah, I think it's ciao for now. Thank you. A lot of love.